Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Oismus. Welcome to the second deck tech on this channel. I just want to start off by saying stay to the end of the video because I have 3 commanders at the end that I'm thinking about doing my next deck tech on. And if you guys will post in the comments of what you want to see, that'll be great because I want to build decks and make content you guys want to see and possibly even play. But that's at the end of the video. Moving on to this deck tech is actually on my first commander I've ever played in EDH, is Norn the Wary. Norn the Wary is a 1 red mana legendary creature human warrior. When a player plays a spell or a creature attacks, remove Norn the Wary from the game. Return it to play under its owner's control at the end of the turn, and it's a 2/1. And most people, when they see this card, see it as completely useless. It'll leave the game, it can't even attack, because when it attacks, it will get exiled from the game. But a lot of other people, like myself included, see this as a lot of enter the battlefield triggers, which this whole deck is primarily built on. When on EDH Rec, people build this deck normally with chaos in mind, with artifacts in mind, or with goblins in mind, even though he isn't even a goblin. I didn't like any of those strategies, so I wanted to make my own deck built around the enter the battlefield, since in a 4-player game, he's going to be enter the battlefield a lot on each person's turn, so we can start racking up damage with some of the cards, or drawing his cards. Moving along with this deck tech, and like every other deck tech, I'm focusing on lands. We have 37 lands in the deck, and we don't really have anything special or many cards of note. We have War Room, which is a new card from Commander Legends, which does let us start drawing cards, which is decent in Mono Red, because though we don't want to use this most of the time, we want to be playing spells or doing other things, this can get us out of a pickle. We just aren't getting specific things we need. But I think in this deck we have plenty of cards drawing, don't really have to worry about it, but it's still a value card. In Mono Red, we have the ability to go for odd land drops. We have Valakut, the Multi-Pinnacle. We have over 20 mountains in this, so you can possibly just get 3 damage to any creature or player, which can be semi-removal, which is still very good. It's just a value card to have in the deck. And we have Karakeep. Just being able to play 2 mana to tap it, so technically 3 mana, to have a creature enter the battlefield is what we're looking for. Since our whole deck is around at the battlefields, and it could just be a decent blocker, since Norn himself can't block, because when they attack, he's going to exile or anything. So this is just a nice land to have in here. Continuing on with ramp, we have 17 ramp cards in this deck, but a lot of them are pretty expensive, and they're artifacts, so they could easily get removed. One of the ones that are interesting and probably can only be played in Norn the Wary is Honor Worn Shaku. It's a 3 mana artifact. At tap, add 1 mana, and you can untap it when you tap a legendary permanent. Since Norn will always be leaving the battlefield, always. This is basically a 3 mana rock. 3 mana rock, tap for 2, which a Worn Power Stone, which people might see, oh, that sucks or that's bad, but it fits in the deck well and it goes in nicely. Another card that's really good is Mox Amber. Norn the Wary is a 1 mana cost commander, so you can just easily bring him out, play Mox Amber, though it will exile. You probably want to play Mox Amber first, then bring him out. You still have an additional 1 mana, and you can just tap the mana before he exiles when you play a card, and you'll basically have a Mox in your hand at turn 1. And it's cheaper, so a lot easier to buy. But along with the expensive, we have Dreamstone Hedron at 6 mana, and it can draw us cards. Since we're going to be needing a lot of ramp in Mono Red, that's the main reason why I have this in here, along with other large ramp cards. The next fundamental step in Magic is card draw, which we actually have 15 sources of card draw. With one of the ones special in Norn the Wary is Tome of Legends. And whenever Norn the Wary enters the battlefield, we're going to put a page counter onto this, and we can tap it for 1 mana, remove a page counter, and draw a card. Norn is entering the battlefield 4 times in a turn cycle, so this is basically a 1 mana draw at any time. It's just super good, and this is basically a must-have. And if anyone else wants to try building an Ori deck, I highly recommend this, as it's a good value engine. You also have Magus of the Wheel. Can't afford Wheel of Fortune, so just the budget version is still fine, and it still gets us out of the pickle when we need to. And we have Smuggler's Copter, another I think must include, just like Tome of Legends, since Lorne is just going to be out there. Before we play anything, we can crew it, tapping him, and would swing, use Smuggler's Carp to draw his cards, and cycle through our deck. And Norn will blink, come back, like it never happened. Since we don't really care if Norn's tapped or not, since he's going to do his own thing on his own. Smugglercopter is a very good include. Now to focus on the main strategy of this deck, which is going to be Enter the Battlefield effects. And they are actually plenty of Enter the Battlefield effects, though I think wish there should be more, and this deck will only get better. One of the new ones we got was Terror of the Peaks, which does damage equal to that creature's power when it enters the battlefield, which doesn't just coincide with your own commander or other creatures, so you can just start doing a lot of damage throughout the board. Can do it any target, so planeswalker creatures, so if you need somewhat removal, this can easily do that. Another very strong one is Purphoros, since it is 2 damage to each opponent, which is the thing we want to focus on. Since it is each, this can kill the game or end the game very, very quickly if you can get him out early with Norn. Another simple damage does 1 damage to each opponent, which is actually only 2 mana, so it's cheaper than Purphoros. You can get him out turn 2 and start dealing damage quickly, but it's only 1 damage, so it's still fine. These cards are like our bread and butter. We have more Enter the Battlefield triggers that also deal damage with Pandemonium, which though it is only 1 target, it's still very good. But we're moving on to the very best, in my opinion, the very best cards in this deck. With Genesis Chamber. 2 mana artifact. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield, if Genesis Chamber is untapped, that creature's controller creates a 1/1 mirror artifact token. We're not worrying about tapping it down. That's just not what our deck is trying to do. But since we can just get so much Enter the Battlefield triggers with Norn, we're most likely going to have the most mirrors throughout all of our opponents. So yes, they're getting some, and they can possibly swing them out of the person. We're going to have more than them, and we're just going to take control of the game. And then we have Confusion in the Ranks. This is just a mean card. I'm not going to lie. If anyone is playing against this deck and they see this, you instantly want to remove it, because this means whenever Norn enters the battlefield, exchange permanents. And since Norn will come back under our control, it's basically whenever Norn enters the battlefield, steal a permanent. Or a creature, I should say. And it's just, we could easily take control of the game with this card. Sure, our opponents will be able to do the same thing, but we're always going to be 1 step ahead of them. This next part of the deck is what I like to call Mono Red Acceleration. Since we're in EDH, can't really be that aggro, but I think with these cards, you definitely can. Dictate of the Twin Gods, Fiery Emancipation, and Furnace of Wrath. Yes, these are expensive cards. Fire Emancipation is 6 mana, it's not something easily gotten up to, but doubling damage is the easiest way in EDH, I believe, that mono red can be aggro. And since we have so much ramp, 17 sources, like I said before, we can get these out relatively quickly. And we have card draw to recycle through our whole deck. These cards are very underrated, but they're also very important in this deck. So those are the main topics within this deck. If you guys want to see more, there is the tapped out link in the description. So if you see a card that you think, hey, you should remove this, add this instead, post that in the comments. It will be greatly appreciated. Norn the Worry, like I said, it was my first commander, so I was super excited to play him. And I think there's a lot to do with this Enter the Battlefield strategy. I want to make content that you guys want to see and decks that you probably want to play. So I'm going to be focusing on these 3 commanders. 2 of them are new, and 1 of them I've always wanted to play. We have Renar, the Everwatcher, and Azorius commander, Anafenza, the Foremost, and Abzan commander, and Freya, Judge of Valor, which is an Orzhov commander. I'm thinking of going like a Blink effect for Renar. Anafenza, I wanted to go Exile Tribal, and I didn't feel like I gave Freya good enough justice in my commander view, so I wanted to make that up. So these are the 3 I'm thinking about. Post in the comments what you want to see. I think they all could be really cool decks with a lot of potential. But that's all for now. Hope to catch you in the next video.